4 years. For long years beneath howling storms, blistering summer heat, and bone-chilling winter nights. A lone figure, silent and unmoving like a cursed ghost, sits there amid the desolate highway, beside a rusted, abandoned gas station where time seems to have died. That figure is Max, a German shepherd with a coat matted with dirt and eyes deep as if holding a terrible secret. No one knows where Max came from, but everyone can feel it. He's not just waiting, he's sworn to wait, even if the sky itself should collapse. Each day, the sun rises, blood red, casting its harsh glow over the endless stretch of road Max never stops watching. Trucks roar by, kicking up clouds of dust, but Max doesn't blink, ears standing tall, nose twitching faintly as if sensing a lost memory. In summer, the heat shimmers off the burning asphalt, silencing even the birds, but Max remains there, tongue lolling, breath labored. In winter, the wind screams through the cracks of the broken gas station, carrying ghostly howls from the depths of hell. Max curls up against the fractured wall, trembling but never giving up. Once, a violent storm swept through, thunder shaking the ground, rain pouring down like a flood, drowning everything in its path, but when the skies cleared, Max was still there, soaked and caked in mud, his eyes fixed on the misty road ahead. The people in the nearby town couldn't ignore the strange sight. Jenny Harper, a 56-year-old diner owner with cropped silver hair and sharp eyes, was the first to notice Max. Every morning, before the sun fully rose, she'd drive her battered old truck to the gas station, set down a bowl of food near the rotting gas pump, then drive away quickly. "Poor boy," she'd mutter, her voice trembling with the threat of tears. "He's waiting for someone. I don't know who, but God, I hope they come back." Jenny wasn't the only one. Truck drivers, drifters on the highway, even the town's children, they all had tried to approach Max. But every time someone got close, Max would spring to his feet, back away a few steps, then sit down again, eyes never leaving the road. No growling, no barking, no resistance, just a terrifying sense of unwavering resolve. Once, a burly truck driver with a thick beard tried to shove Max into his cab, shouting, "Come on, you dumb mutt. I'll give you a home." But Max broke free, claws scraping against the ground, then ran a few yards away and sat back down like a living statue. A young girl with tear-streaked cheeks once approached with a leash, begging Max to come with her. He only tilted his head, gazed at her for a long moment, then returned to his spot. The townspeople began to whisper, Max wasn't a stray. Max was a mystery. A forgotten promise. A story no one dared to uncover. At night, when the town lay quiet, some claimed to hear faint whining from the gas station, a low, haunting sound that cut into the soul like a blade. Some swore they had seen Max lift his head toward the sky and let out a long, mournful howl beneath the starless night, as though calling out to someone across an impossible distance. But by morning, Max would still be there, motionless, his bloodshot eyes dulled by dust and wind but never losing that strange glimmer of hope. Max hadn't just survived 4 brutal years, he had become the embodiment of something far greater, a loyalty beyond human understanding. And then, on one fateful morning, as the golden sunrise pierced through the lingering fog, the impossible happened, a miracle that made the whole world stop and hold its breath. It was a cold morning in early autumn when Ethan Brooks, a 32-year-old investigative journalist with short dark brown hair and razor-sharp eyes, first took notice of Max. Ethan had driven down this road hundreds of times on his way to gritty crime scenes or blood-soaked stories he chased for a living. The sight of the German shepherd sitting motionless by the old gas station wasn't new. Ethan had glimpsed Max during rush trips in the past, but he had never stopped. Until today. There was something about the way Max sat, ears erect, eyes burning like an unquenchable flame, that made Ethan slam on the brakes, his heart hammering as though he had just stumbled upon a buried secret. Dust swirled around his sleek black SUV as he sat behind the wheel, quietly observing. Max didn't move, as if frozen in time, only the wind stirring the dusty fur clinging to his body. Ethan reached for his phone, snapped a quick picture, his fingers trembling, not from the cold, but from a strange, rising instinct. "What happened to you, huh?" he muttered, breath fogging in the crisp air. Unable to resist, Ethan stepped out of the car, the crunch of his boots on gravel cutting through the silence. He wasn't sure what he was looking for, but his journalist's gut screamed at him. This wasn't just a stray dog, this was an unsolved case. Ethan pushed open the door of Jenny's diner. The smell of hot coffee and bacon grease hit him, driving away the chill outside. The diner was small, a few truckers scattered at the counter, the sound of spoons clinking against mugs blending with the crackling radio warning of an approaching storm. Behind the counter, Jenny Harper's sharp gaze sliced toward Ethan like a blade. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice low but steady. Ethan nodded, sliding into a stool. "And I need to ask you something." Jenny poured the coffee, her mouth curling into a knowing smirk. "About the dog, right? You're late, reporter. That mystery's 4 years old." Ethan's brows drew together. The coffee burned his hands, but he barely noticed. 4 years? What's it waiting for? Jenny sighed, wiping her hands on her apron, her gaze drifting toward the window where Max still sat, unmoving. "No one knows for sure. Some say he belonged to a truck driver who died. Others say he was abandoned. But me," her voice dropped to a whisper, dark and foreboding, "I think he's waiting for his family. And I'm afraid they're never coming back." 4 years. The number hit Ethan like a knife to the chest. He had written about everything: missing persons, miraculous survivals, tearful reunions, but this was different. Darker. Deeper. He pulled out his phone, opened his notes, and began typing rapidly. A story was forming, and Ethan was determined to tear open the veil of this mystery. He left the diner, Jenny's watchful gaze trailing after him like a warning. "Careful, you're stepping into a labyrinth with no way out." Hours passed in his car. Ethan sat hunched over his laptop, digging through reports of missing dogs from 4 years ago. Sweat trickled down his temple, his heart racing as a particular article flashed on his screen. Miller family, Jake, Sarah, and their son Ryan report German Shepherd named Max missing after a car accident on Highway 214. Ethan froze. Highway 214, less than a mile from where Max was sitting. His throat tightened. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "He's still here." The report detailed that horrific night: torrential rain, the car skidding off the road, shattered glass, and Max disappearing into the storm. The Millers thought Max had died, but he hadn't. He had survived. And he had waited for 4 years, like a spirit bound by an unspoken promise. Ethan's gaze drifted to Max through the windshield. The dog was still sitting there, perfectly still, his tired eyes flickering with a desperate kind of hope. This wasn't just a stray, this was a soldier, a survivor, a living story begging to be told. Ethan grabbed his camera, his hand trembling as he pressed the record button. "This is Max," Ethan's voice was low, urgent. "For 4 years, he sat on this road, waiting for someone who never came back. No one knows how he survived, but I think I just found the truth." He zoomed in on Max, his weathered fur, the slight twitch of his ear as a car sped by, those haunting eyes cutting through the fog. 4 years ago, Max lost his family in a car accident. They thought he died. But they didn't know Max never gave up. Ethan posted the video on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook with the caption, "The dog who never left." Max has waited 4 years since the tragic accident that took his family. They thought he was gone forever. Now we need to find them. Who can help? his heart hammered as he hit post. He didn't expect what came next. Within an hour, the video exploded, 10,000 views, thousands of comments pouring in. "My heart is breaking. Find his family. This dog's loyalty is unreal." And then, like lightning splitting a quiet sky, a single message appeared. Ryan Miller, now 14, sat in a suburban house miles away, his eyes wide as the video played on his phone. Tears welled up as he gasped, "Max! Mom, they found him!" Sarah Miller rushed in, phone shaking in her hand as she watched the screen. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Oh my God, that's Max!" The secret was out. And the race to reunite them had begun. Night fell, cold and silent, as the headlights of the Miller family's car cut through the thick fog on the highway. After more than 10 hours of driving from Denver along winding roads and through howling winds that seemed determined to pull them back, Sarah Miller gripped the steering wheel tightly, her eyes red and swollen. Jake sat beside her, silent, his hands clenched around the armrest so tightly his knuckles were white. In the back seat, Ryan, now 14, stared out the window, his heart thundering in his chest. "Mom, hurry," he whispered, his voice choked with emotion. They were racing against fate, clinging to the fragile hope that Max, the dog they had mourned for 4 long years, was still there, waiting for them like an unbroken dream. Ethan Brooks stood near the old gas station, his breath curling into the icy night air. He hadn't left. His eyes remained fixed on Max, the faithful German shepherd sitting motionless as a statue. Around them, the townspeople began to gather, Jenny Harper clutching a warm blanket, trembling, a few truck drivers murmuring about the ghost dog they had tried to save before. Suddenly, headlights flashed from down the road. Ethan's breath hitched. Max shot upright, ears pointed, nose twitching furiously. The car screeched to a stop, dust swirling through the air. The door flew open, Sarah was the first to stumble out, her legs nearly giving way beneath her. Jake followed, his hardened face cracking under the weight of emotion. And then Ryan, taller now, but with the same bright eyes, stepped out, his heart pounding painfully in his chest. Time stopped. Max stood there, motionless, his eyes locked on the 3 figures before him. Sarah stepped forward, her voice breaking, "Max!" The dog didn't move. Ryan dropped to his knees, tears spilling down his cheeks as he whispered, "It's me, Max. It's me." A second passed. Then another. And then Max took a step forward. Slowly, hesitantly, as though he couldn't believe it was real. His tail twitched, his ears quivering. And suddenly, he sprang forward, knocking Ryan to the ground with a force that sent the boy sprawling. Sarah's sobs mixed with Ryan's breathless laughter as he clutched Max, his face buried in the dirty fur. "You waited for me. You really waited for me." Jake knelt beside them, his rough hand stroking Max's head with trembling fingers. "Good boy," Jake whispered, his voice thick with tears. "Good boy." Max let out a low, shuddering whine, not a bark, not a cry, but the sound of 4 years of pain melting away into nothing. But the story didn't end there. When the car pulled away toward Denver, Max lay curled beside Ryan, his head resting on the boy's lap. That night, in their new house, not the old one in Wyoming where they had lived before the accident, Max hesitated as he stepped inside. His ears flattened, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar walls. Sarah laid down Max's old bed in the corner of the room and whispered, "This is home, Max." Max didn't lie down. Instead, he paced, claws clicking against the hardwood floor. He stopped near the back door, staring into the darkness beyond. Ryan saw it, how Max's body tensed, as though waiting for something or someone that would never come. 4 years of surviving storms in silence, did Max even know what home meant anymore? The first few days were a nightmare. Max refused to sleep indoors, curling up beside the door as though prepared to run at any moment. Ryan lay on the floor beside him, whispering into his fur, "You're safe now. I swear." But Max remained restless, ears twitching at every creak of the house, tail lowered as though bracing for disaster. Then came the fireworks. A distant crackle in the night sky. Max bolted, crashing through the back door into the yard, his eyes wide and wild, claws digging into the frozen earth as if trying to escape. Ryan chased after him, shouting, "Max, stop!" Max froze at the edge of the yard, caught between the safety of the house and the dark road beyond. He turned, trembling, eyes shining in the moonlight. Ryan's chest heaved as he stood barefoot in the cold grass. "Come back," he pleaded. "Come back to me." A breathless pause. And then Max stepped forward. Slowly, cautiously. Then he pressed his head against Ryan's chest, shaking. Ryan wrapped his arms around him, tears streaking his cheeks. "You're here. You're really here." Time began to heal the wounds. One cold morning, Ryan woke to find Max curled in his old bed for the first time, his body relaxed, his breathing steady. Ryan smiled through quiet tears. That night, Ryan sat on the floor with an old photo album, pictures of Max as a mischievous puppy. Max patted over, laying his head on Ryan's lap. Ryan's fingers shook as he whispered, "You remember me, don't you?" Max's tail thumped softly against the floor, for the first time since his return. Day by day, Max grew stronger. He chased Ryan through the backyard, barking with joy. He no longer slept by the door, he slept at Ryan's feet. Sarah and Jake watched from the kitchen window as Max bounded across the yard, the morning sun catching in his golden fur. "He remembers us," Jake whispered. "He's home," Sarah replied. The sun set over the Miller family's backyard, casting everything in a warm, golden glow. Max was no longer a ghost on the highway. He was Max, the dog who had endured 4 years of loneliness and heartbreak and had finally found his way home. Ethan smiled as his final video went viral. Max is home. Sometimes, miracles happen. But for Ryan, Sarah, and Jake, it wasn't just a miracle. It was a promise kept, a promise sealed beneath the radiant glow of a new day.